All righty, so it's recording. So this is going to be a new loan officer orientation for Obsidian Financial Services. My name is Andre Nuendam. Welcome everybody on board. I'm the Director of Operations here at Obsidian. My email address is andre@obsidianmortgage.com in case you need to reach out to me. A couple of things to know about Obsidian is, first of all, we are a correspondent lender. If you don't know what a correspondent lender is, you will by the end of this training. We're designated as a fully delegated lender, which means that we can originate loans all the way from A to Z. We process, we underwrite, we do everything in-house, and we offer you both correspondent and wholesale channels. So if you're brokered before, you're familiar with the wholesale channel, you may not be familiar with correspondent, but we will cover that as well. Obsidian's strength is that we are not a broker. So we don't have to go to the middleman. We are a lender. We lend our own money. That gives us the flexibility, speed, and appetite to lend where most brokers can't, and everything is done in-house. Most important thing is not everybody has what it takes to work at Obsidian. You have to be entrepreneurial. In other words, treat this like it is your own business. Business management skills, which means time management, getting your job done, building your pipeline. Willingness to be a self-starter means you spend time learn the business, get on the Fannie and Freddie websites, learn all about the guidelines, go to the CFPB website, HUD, all of those things are your friend. All of those handbooks are going to help you out. And then professional acumen, obviously conduct yourself professionally at all times. You're in a very high, very high stress situation with borrowers and agents and things like that. You want to make sure that you're conducting yourself professionally. All right. So what we expect from our loan officers is we expect you to be productive within 60 days of joining Obsidian. So what does productive mean? Productive means that you are able to build a pipeline of referrals within your first 2 months of being with Obsidian. This is going to be the first thing that you're going to need to do. Eventually, we want you to get to a point where you're having a continuous output of $1 million of business a month, closing 3 to 4 loans at minimum a month after the first 6 months that you've been with us. Are these set in stone? No. Are there minimums? No. But this is goals that you should realistically set for yourself to make sure that you're being productive in this business. You pay to get licensed every year, so you want to make sure that you are doing everything in your power to bring in and build a healthy pipeline. All right, so let's talk about getting set up to do business. First thing you want to do is you want to start with the intranet. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here for a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the intranet, give you a quick walkthrough on that so that you can see where everything is navigation-wise and understand how to use it correctly. So if you give me a second here, get to that screen. All right, so this is our intranet site. This is basically a website that is just specifically for Obsidian employees, and it has all of the information that you need to be successful here at Obsidian. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come to this welcome on board, getting started graphic. You'll also see that there's healthcare sign up available here if you need to sign up for a healthcare plan. And then there's other things like our talent ambassador, marketing and loan officer resources, and our scenarios desk. So when you come here to the welcome on board, that's going to give you oversight of everything that you need to know about being a loan officer at Obsidian. There's also helpful links here for creating your signature, downloading Microsoft Teams, which is our official communications platform, ordering business cards and shirts and other marketing products, and a full detailed description of your job requirements with us. We also have contact information for the main people that are involved in onboarding. In case you have any questions, you can reach out to any of these people here as well. The next thing that we give you is our scenarios desk. If you're brand new to the lending industry and you don't really know what you're doing, you can come in here and fill out this form and submit a scenario request. So basically, you've spoken to a borrower. They've given you sort of an idea of what it is that they're looking to accomplish, and you don't know how to get there. You can actually come here and fill out a scenario request. All right, you're going to have a regional manager that's also going to assist you, but in some circumstances, they may not have the answers for you right off the bat, especially in wholesale situations where you're looking for a broker lender. So you can come here, put in a scenario. You can request a call back if you need a call back. We'll call you back within 4 to 8 hours, typically one business day, run over the scenario for you or respond back by email, which is usually a little bit quicker. All right. We also have our advertising disclaimer here on the page in case you want to do any advertising. And then we have some specific typical loan scenarios for different types of programs that you can look at. The next thing we also offer is our reverse mortgage desk. So some people run across reverse mortgages, also known as HECMs. Most people don't know how to originate these. We have a desk that does the entire loan for you. You pay them 35 bips. So basically 0.35 of the loan amount. So less than, a third of a percent of what the commission is going to be. And they will do the entire loan for you. So you can either send the link to your borrower. There's a link right here, start your loan. You can click on that, copy the reversescenario.com link, send that to your borrower. The responses that they give will go right to the reverse mortgage desk to start working on the reverse mortgage for you. Or you can go ahead and do the interview with the borrower yourself, collect all this information, submit the form, and they will get in contact with your borrower. They'll sell the loan to them, order counseling, everything else that needs to be done. We have what's called our OFS Talent Ambassador Program. This is for loan officers that want to go out there and recruit other loan officers. You can build your own team inside of Obsidian without being a branch manager. You literally get paid for every person that you onboard, as well as making a small percentage of every loan that they originate. So you'll get 10 bips per loan. If your team does 10 loans in a month, you get 15 bips. So we encourage loan officers to take advantage of that, especially if you're new to the industry, but you know other people that are licensed that might be looking for a home. Everybody that you bring on, you can make money from. We also have what's called our knowledge base. So our knowledge base just has some helpful tools for you. It's got the today's rates and then links to the most important things that you might need to know about. All right, so you got your DTI calculators here. You've got ability to repay. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac seller guides are here as well. Loan officer training is where you want to spend the vast majority of your time as a new loan officer. Go straight to the Mortgage Loan Originator Training Hub. This has every specific video of every training that we've done here at Obsidian. These are pretty lengthy for the most part, so I would recommend doing them in like 20-minute increments, just covering through a lot of these topics. But this has everything in here that you need to know about originating loans with Obsidian. So these are mostly all of the most common concepts. Take the time to spend some time in here, review all of these. Documents and forms, you'll see under here, there are loan officer resources. These are where you're going to find all the guides and paperwork that you need. Okay. So we have logo formats here for your marketing. We have processing guidelines, processor assignments, self-employed income guides, et cetera, that you can use here. So any forms that you need, payout forms to get paid, all of those are located here. Lead generation programs. We have lead generation programs here available to you as well. So we have all of these different programs for you. Hang on one quick second, folks. Give me a second here. My apologies. And then here we have a few of our lead generation programs that are available to you as well. We do have other ones that aren't listed here. So, if you want to check in with your regional managers, we're consistently adding programs. We're working on trigger leads and some other things. Lead Pops, they'll build you a website, basically a self-branded website. We have a new website program that's coming out that we're testing in beta right now that, gives you name leads directly to your mailbox. That's going to be released in probably about a week. But you can look at all of these, click on the links, they'll take you there so you can learn more about those. Lender homepage, same thing. It's basically just to build a website for you. Every Mile Pro, these are name leads. They're a little bit more expensive, but they do work. And then finally, here we have your business cards and marketing products. So you can come here and you can look at the business cards that we offer, as well as all the marketing products that we offer that are available to you. And all you need to do to get access to that is just go to Andre at obsidianmortgage.com, send me an email, and I will send you access to our pro shop. All right. All right. So that's the intranet. So let me go back to the presentation here. All right. So the first thing we want to talk about is marketing and referrals. That's going to be the most important skill that you learn as a loan officer. Again, if you are a loan officer and you don't have a pipeline, you could be the most talented loan officer, but like I like to say, you won't catch fish in an empty pond. So the first couple of weeks of your career with us, you should be spending that time developing and honing your lead generation strategy. How are you going to market yourself? How are you going to get leads? Try to build that pipeline. Again, like I said, you can be an expert fisherman, but you're not going to catch anything if the pond is empty. All right. So you want to start out by marketing locally. That's going to be the best thing. That's your bread and butter. You know where you live. You know what's going on within your community. There's a couple of different ways that you want to approach that. First of all, you want to start with friends and family referrals. Try to build up a referral goal of 10 referrals in your first month. Why do we say 10? Because generally 10 referrals will turn into 3 applications. 3 applications generally will at least turn into 1 loan. So the more that you're doing, that's the average. That's the law of averages that we have there. If you do 10 referrals, you're going to get a loan out of that. You want to run your social media campaign. So set up your Google business page. Okay. You can do it branded as Obsidian, your local Obsidian, use your address and everything else, phone number, all that good stuff. You don't have to use your home address. But set it up locally. When people Google, generally for mortgage loans, they're not Googling just mortgage loans. They're looking mortgage loans Tampa, mortgage loans in their city. A lot of people don't know that mortgage loans are a distance transaction where they don't have to meet with the loan officer or anything else. Especially first-time home buyers that aren't familiar with the process. You want to do the same thing with your Facebook page. Set up your Facebook business page and set up your LinkedIn business page. Link those back to our pages. That way, when we're posting things, those things are showing up on your posts. All right. That's going to get you exposure as well. It also makes you look more legitimate as a business. You can use lead generation sources. Some people want to spend some money on mailers. If you don't have the budget to spend, MailChimp is free. They let you send out 2,000 pieces of email a month to a list. Surefire is another option that we offer you right now. It's free of charge to get signed up. So if you want to look at Surefire, you can just Google it. It'll tell you a lot about it, but it's a really great marketing tool that we offer. And then the most important thing is knowing your market. It's really very easy to do this. If you are in a area, let's say for example you're in Tampa, Florida, you go to Zillow, you type in Tampa, Florida, you start looking at the home values in there, and you look at the Zillow estimates, and you see that there's a lot of equity in the homes there. Then boom, there's a good opportunity to refinance. What's a good approach to take with people on refinances? Well, obviously rates right now aren't great for refinancing. So what's a good option for a refinance? Well, refinances, the equity is sitting there, right? It's not making you money when it's sitting there. Okay. You could take a cash out and you could do improvements to your house, but that's still, while it's increasing the value of your house, if it's not your goal to sell your house immediately, that's also still not making you money, right? Because again, now you're taking out money at a higher interest rate. So if you're going to talk to people about refinances, you should be talking to them about refinances as an investment vehicle. Taking cash out and putting that cash into something that is going to generate revenue for you, whether it's a 401k, Roth IRA, whatever it is that you're going to use it for, use it to create dividends or to create interest earnings that are going to help pay some of your mortgage. Some people have been able to get earnings where they've got enough equity to where it pays their entire mortgage. So that's one of these things that if you know some financial advisors or there's financial advisors within your community, talk to them about that. A lot of our financial advisors that came on as mortgage loan officers, that's what they did with their clients. They would go to their client and say, take out a cash out refinance and let's go ahead and put that into something that's going to earn you some money rather than just letting it sit there and you pay interest on it or not pay interest on it and it's not doing anything for you. Okay. New construction, that's an easy one. You drive around, you see a lot of subdivisions, you'll see there's a construction company sign on there. You can go ahead and, take a picture of that sign and call them up and say, hey, who are you using for your preferred lender? Does your preferred lender offer subpar or subprime loans? No, they don't. Okay, well, we offer those. We have over 100 different programs. Don't feel, just because they have a preferred lender that they're not shopping for other people. They're always looking for good lenders, that have programs other people don't have, and we have those. Purchase, you drive around, you see a lot of for sale signs. Go to those open houses. Offer to co-brand with those realtors. If you're close to a VA, to a base, go talk to somebody at the base about VA loans. Underserved communities. If you're living in an urban center, there are always underserved communities. Generally, these folks they're underbanked. They have lower credit scores and everything like that. We have the ability to go down to a 500 credit score on FHA loans. We have zero down FHAs. We have DPA programs. All right. Those are all niche products that you can go out there and market that other lenders aren't doing. You can't walk into a bank and get a subprime loan. Wells Fargo doesn't do them. Chase doesn't do them. Okay. Real estate and mortgage associations and realtors. I just had a realtor call me the other day from the Real Estate Association of Florida. She called up and she needed a loan officer to go show up. I couldn't make it, but I sent one of our loan officers there. She got to talk to 67 realtors about loan programs, and a lot of them were impressed because we offer so many different programs. But you got to get out there and you got to market yourself. So take that first 2 weeks and hone your skills. Get really good at selling. That's what you got to do. Build that pipeline. Do that. You're going to need that skill throughout your entire career. All right, let's talk about communications and training resources that we offer. So, first of all, we use Microsoft Teams as our main collaboration hub. If you have not downloaded Microsoft Teams, you need to download the business or school edition. You cannot access us with the regular personal edition that comes on Windows 10. You're going to find that some features aren't going to work there. So you need to go and download it. If you haven't downloaded it already, we're using Teams right now, but you can go right to this link right here and you can pick up a copy of Teams. Make sure you get the school and business one. All right, you can add custom links to the top of your signature and add your signature now. We used to auto-populate signatures for you. We don't do that anymore. There is a free signature generator that tells you how to add signatures to Outlook. It is on HubSpot. The link is at the bottom of the page here. So you can go ahead and use that link to generate a signature for your emails. All right, so let's talk about loan origination at this point. All right. First of all, for those of you that don't know, what is a correspondent lender? A correspondent lender is basically a lender that funds their loans via a bank line of credit. So, in other words, we're funding with our own money, right? When somebody does a loan with us, all the paperwork says Obsidian. The check at the end of the day says Obsidian. So, what's the difference between that and a direct lender and a mortgage broker? Well, a mortgage broker is the middleman, right? They're looking for lenders. A correspondent lender, again, is like a community bank. right? It's not like a direct lender like Wells Fargo and all of those guys. So very similar to a direct lender. The only difference is that we immediately sell the loan to an investor. So our relationship is a lender to investor relationship. It is not a lender to lender relationship. We also do not service loans. Okay, so the moment the loan funds, it goes into what we call a warehouse, and then the warehouse sells that loan to the investor that we lock that rate with, okay, for the price that you locked it at. So when you're actually dealing with loans on the correspondent side of thing, you're looking at investors, not lenders. That's why it's not important to be product specific there. All right, so let's talk about the way that Obsidian does loans. First of all, as a loan officer originator with Obsidian, you have the ability to originate on our delegated or non-delegated channel. I'll explain what that is in a minute. And we offer you wholesale lines so you can broker loans. Okay. You have the ability also to act as a loan officer assistant in any state Obsidian is licensed in and get paid. So how does that work? Basically, if you're a loan officer in Florida and let's say you get a lead in South Carolina, you're not licensed in South Carolina. You don't want to give all of that commission to another loan officer. With Obsidian, you don't have to do that. Basically, what we do is we assign you as a loan officer assistant on there. We put a loan officer on the loan that's licensed in South Carolina. You still work the loan as the LOA, doing everything. All they're going to do is sign disclosures. You know, they'll talk to your borrower about rates if need be or whatever. Um, but they are basically not really doing anything on the loan. You're doing everything as the LOA. And then once the loan closes, you basically pay them $595 for their time, and you get to keep the rest of the money. And you can do that in all 32 states that we're licensed in. So that's how it's called our transition desk. So all you have to do is if you're in that situation, you have a loan somewhere else, you reach out, you say, hey, Andre, who can I put on this loan? I'll give you a name of somebody, you reach out to them, say, hey, do you mind being on the transition desk for this loan for me? They say yes, you just put their name on the loan, add yourself as the LOA, and then go to town. Okay. All right, keys to remember as a lender. All right, this is really important things because a lot of people have that broker mentality where they're thinking, "Oh, I'm not the lender, I'm a broker, so I got to know all these things about lending, and I need to know who does what, et cetera, et cetera." First of all, we're a lender. That means that loans are done in our name. Every piece of paper that goes out of Obsidian says Obsidian on it. Unlike a broker, our relationship with other lenders is a lender to investor relationship. That's what I was talking about. When you go to price a loan with us, you are looking at the lender that is going, the investor, I'm sorry, that is going to purchase that loan. That's what the relationship is. When you're pricing, that list of people that comes back on that pricing list is a list of investors who will purchase the loan from us. That's why it is not important to know what lender does what investor does what. When you actually price the scenario, that's going to tell you. So you just need to understand your scenario, right? The information that you're getting in your loan application is going to tell you which investor is going to purchase it. The only time you need to find a lender is when your loan cannot be done on Obsidian's correspondent line. You're doing it as a wholesale or brokering the loan. Okay. Those are the only times you need to be able to find lenders, and your regional manager or corporate can help you find the right lender through the scenarios desk. We also have the scenarios channel and teams where you can ask other experienced loan officers questions as well. So make sure that you're on that channel. And a lot of the loan officers have experience with these other lenders, so they'll tell you who's good and who's not. All right, let's talk about the loan application, loan estimate, pre-approvals, and TRID. All right. For transactions subject to TRID, all right, you have to have 6 pieces of information. What are those 6 pieces of information? The consumer's name, consumer's income, the consumer's social security number to obtain a credit report. A lot of people just think, oh, I just need to get the social security number. No, you have to obtain the credit report. That's the second part of it. The property address, okay? You cannot do a TBD and violate TRID. Okay. When you have a property address means you have a contract on the property. Okay. Just putting in an address because the buyer says, oh, I'm interested in this property and I think they're going to sell it to me. No. A property address, what constitutes having a property address is having a contract, a signed agreement with the seller to purchase the property. All right. An estimate of the value of the property and the mortgage loan amount sought. Those are the 6 things that trigger TRID. If you have all of those items, you must provide the loan estimate within 3 days of receipt. All right. Our loan officers don't send out loan estimates. It is done by your opener. I'll explain opener here in a little bit later on in this presentation, but just remember these 6 things, okay? It's really technically the name, the income, the credit report, property address, which is the property contract, estimate of the value of the property, and the loan amount sought, okay? That's really technically what TRID is. All right, so there are exceptions to providing an LE. All right. If a borrower asks you for a pre-qual or a pre-approval letter, all right, which they're going to ask you on the TBD, right? They're going out shopping. That's why they need a pre-approval. Sometimes it is because they have a purchase contract and they want to show the borrower that the seller that they're serious. But sometimes, in most general cases, it's going to be because they're going shopping and they want that pre-approval letter to show the power of their money, right? Their credit is good and they've got an approval. All right. If a consumer starts filling out a form online, in other words, you send them your point of sale, they enter the 6 pieces of information that constitute an application for the purposes of TRID, but they don't finish the application, that does not violate TRID. All right. A lot of people think, oh, I've got all 6 things now, even though I've got a partial application. No. Okay. The 1003, a complete 1003, is what constitutes it if the 1003 is being filled out as an online application, which in most cases, if you're sending out your point of sale, that's going to be the case. If the consumer does not submit all 6 pieces of information that constitute an application for the purposes of TRID, a loan estimate is not required. All right. But if you have enough information to run AUS and get an approved eligible, based on the information that the borrower has provided, you don't have to worry about sending out the loan estimate, but you can go ahead and send out the pre-approval or the pre-qual letter. Okay, what's the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qual letter? It's very simple. A pre-approval means that you have an AUS approved eligible. If you don't have an AUS approved eligible, you can only send out a pre-qualification letter. Pre-qual letter is basically saying, based on the information that you've sent us, I think you might qualify for this loan. A pre-approval letter is basically saying, if everything that we have is true, you are already approved for this loan. Okay. All of those are subject to underwriting guidelines, obviously, but the pre-approval letter carries a lot more weight than a pre-qualification letter. But don't send out a pre-approval letter without an approved eligible AUS. All right, self-employed borrowers, you always have to demonstrate via Form 1084 how the income was calculated. You have to do that prior to sending the loan to our processors. Form 1084 can be replaced by a Fannie and Freddie approved mortgage calculator. All right, but it has to be Fannie or Freddie approved. The Form 1084 must be uploaded into LendingPad. If you don't know where to get the form, it is on the intranet under Loan Officer Resources. You can also go to Genworth's website. They have a really nice one that you can just fill out, and you can submit that. It generates a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet. You just download that, and then you upload that into the loan file. There's also something called the processor cover sheet, which I'll show you guys where that is. You also have to upload that or fill that out and submit that with your loan. All right. You have to have a minimum of 2 years of calculations unless otherwise specified by the loan program. All right, you'll run across some loan programs where it says you only need a year of calculation. Some will say you only need a P&L, profit and loss statement. Always going to be dependent on the program, but just take it for granted under Fannie and Freddie guidelines. This is what's required of you. All right, loan interviews. All right, everybody gets a point of sale link. It's an electronic link, okay, that you just send your borrower to fill out the application. If you're an experienced loan officer, you will know that sending out the point of sale link without talking to the borrower is probably the worst thing you can do in your life, because the borrower's not going to complete the application. They're not going to know the answers to the application, and then you're going to be chasing them to complete the application, right? So you want to always interview your borrower. My rule of thumb is if you have the time to take the application personally over the phone, take the application over the phone, because you're going to get a 100% complete application that way. All right. If you're just sending them the point of sale, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. All right. They're going to fill out, their names, their security number. I don't know the rest of this stuff. Let me go dig up some documents and try to find the answers to this. And that might be 3 to 4 days before they ever finish the application. So when you're doing the interview, you want to be helpful but assertive. So in other words, when I say assertive, you must set milestones with the borrower. Okay. You're going to see in our situation, we use what's called our loan streamline process, which requires the LO to do very little work on the front end. All right. But you have to set the milestones with the borrower. So if you're doing the interview and you're taking that application and you're going to have 100% of the application, there's going to be 5 additional documents we're going to ask you to collect from the borrower. You need to set milestones with the borrower to get you documents. All right. If you're talking to the borrower on a Monday, you need the documents by Wednesday. You need all of the remaining documents by the following Monday or that Friday. Give them the weekend to get the documents, but you have to tell them specifically when and what days you need documents. Don't just leave that out there, because they will, hem and haw and drag their feet and everything else. And you won't get the application done. The goal is to get the application moving into processing within that first 48 hours. All right. Concise, clear communications, bullet points, quick points, you know, short instructions. Step 1, I need you to complete the application. Step 2, I need these 5 documents. Step 3, I need the remaining documents on such and such date. Alleviate anxiety. Tell the borrower, as long as you're doing everything you ask them to do, everything's going to be fine. Okay. Remind them it's a time transaction. All right. If they're wanting to close in 30 days, they have got to hit those milestones. All right. Ensure that your file can be processed and underwritten efficiently. That means that you are getting stuff to the processor and the underwriter as they are asking for it. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait until you got 32 conditions on your file to start helping the underwriter. All right. The loan interview. Here's the questions. If everybody wants to take a screenshot here, these are the questions you should be asking. All right. What's the purpose of the loan? You got to know that. All right. That's going to tell you product. How much gross income do you bring in each month? That's going to give you DTI. Okay. Do you have a continuous 2-year work history? That's going to be important, right? Remember, we need 2 years of financial documents that show stability. Are you self-employed or W-2 employee? That's going to tell you what income documents you need. What do you think your current credit score is? It's going to tell you, are they subprime, subpar? Are they above? Is it going to have to be an FHA loan? How much are you paying for your current housing? That's going to give you an idea of how much mortgage they can afford, how much of a monthly payment they can afford. Obviously, if they're making the rental payments right now and their mortgage payment is below that, that's going to be easy for them, right? Lower DTI. But if they're having a hard time and they're paying so much or they pay so little that it's not really going to help them qualify for a mortgage, those are things that you're going to need to take into consideration. Credit card or student loan debt. Credit card debt obviously is a factor in your credit score, but student loan debt is probably the most detrimental factor, because a lot of people, during COVID went into forbearance. They had all these other issues and stuff like that. So you want to look out for that one. If they're telling you they have student loan debt, those are some of the things you need to ask them. Are you in forbearance? Are your payments up to date? Because that's the last thing you want is for us to have to basically, check on the FHA or whatever and find out that they are behind on their student loans, okay, or that they're in forbearance. What do you have saved for a down payment? That's important, right? We know what the down payment requirements are. Do you have a co-borrower? That's going to help you with the income. Are you working with the real estate agent? Are you trying to sell your current home? How quickly are you looking to close? That tells you how serious they are. Do you need a pre-approval, and do you have a home in mind already? Okay. Those are all questions that you want to ask. I'm going to leave this slide up for a couple of seconds and let you know. Hang on one quick second, everybody. All right, folks. So we have a process that we call, our first 48 process, which again is about getting the loan to our processing and underwriting team within that first 48 hours. Okay. And that starts with the application process we just discussed, right? Which is the interview process. Once you've completed the interview process, we have what's called the loan streamline process. We give you guys a aid for that, right? So basically, that is taking the application via the point of sale or direct entry. And then at that point, you have 5 document requirements that you need to collect from the borrower right away. Okay. These are the ID cards. So basically, a government ID and a secondary form of ID, like a utility bill, credit card, something of that nature that has their name on it. Income documents. So that's going to be based on whether they are W-2 or self employed, which documents you need to collect, their assets, bank statements, right? 2 months worth of bank statements, a purchase contract if they have one available. If you're shopping and they're not going to have one. And then what we call our credit card authorization form, which is basically a form that you grab from the intranet that is needs to be signed by them in order for us to pull credit. It is basically giving us the authority to go ahead and pull credit on their behalf. Now, if you have a completed 1003, you don't need a credit card off because a fully completed 1003 is implied consent to pull credit. But you're not going to have that within that first period of time, unless you're actually doing the interview and getting 100% of it done. So the credit card off is going to be in that initial email that you're going to send them with the list of the 5 documents and everything else in your point of sale if you're going that route. All right. Within the first 48 hours after that piece is complete, we want you to ensure that the application is complete. So in other words, you get it on Monday. By Wednesday, you should have all this done. You should have the complete 1003 and lending pad. You should have ran credit. You should have ran your income calculations if they're a self-employed borrower. And at that point, you're going to run your AUS. And you have to have an approved eligible in order to move forward with submitting that to processing. All right. Prior to sending it to processing, you want to make sure that you've completed both the loan submission and process recovery sheets and print forms, title estimate, which is just calling the title company and saying, hey, I've got this property. I need the estimate on the title costs, title fees. All right, it's that simple. Title's already going to know which property it is because they're going to have a copy of the purchase contract. Disclosure points and fees compliance test. So in other words, I'll show you guys how to do that, but you want to make sure that your points and fees are below the 3% threshold. Are you going to price your loan and lock it right then before you submit it to processing, or are you going to float the lock? And then you're going to send out your pre-qual or pre-approval letter at that point. Okay. That should all happen within the first 48 hours. Within 48 hours, that loan should be sitting at the opener's desk. All right. So again, you want to do the introduction via phone or email, document checklist to tell the borrowers what's expected, the first 5 docs, and then the remaining docs you need. Point of sale link that you're going to send them for the 1003 and document uploads, or you're going to do it yourself, enter it into lending pad yourself, and then the credit card off to run the credit and pay for other loan related expenses. All right. And that's a mandatory one. All right. How do I know which channel or investor to use? All right. So what's going to determine that is going to be whether your loan is a conforming or non-conforming loan. All right. So Obsidian, again, we are a fully delegated full Eagle lender, which means we are able to originate FHA and VA loans in addition to other conforming loans. Okay. The reason why is because our warehouse only allows us to do conforming loans and VAs and FHA loans, right? They conform to Fannie and Freddie guidelines. So on the delegated side, what delegated means is essentially the investor that is going to purchase a loan from us is delegating the ability to underwrite and process and everything, the entire loan to us. That's what delegated means. All right. So conforming loans include your conventional mortgages, your fixed rate mortgages, your adjustable rate mortgages, FHA loans, and VA loans. That's going to be the loans that you can do in house. All right. Everything else that falls outside of those guidelines is going to need to be done either on our non-delegated or our wholesale lines. All right. So when we're talking about your non-QM or your non-qualified mortgages, we're looking at 4 different categories. We're looking at number one, borrowers that are generally self-employed fall in that category. They usually have high DTI or jumbo requirements. Say, for example, in California, people make a lot more money. In New York City, these guys make a lot more money, so their DTI ratios are higher than 43%, but their income is also higher. All right. So they've got higher salaries and stronger residual income. Your prior credit impairments, which are your subpar, subprime folks. All right. And then your investors and foreign nationals. So these are your DSCR programs, your people whose investment properties fall outside of QM guidelines. And then you've got your borrowers outside the United States, typically called ITIN loans. These are folks that don't have the necessary ID and qualifications to qualify for a conventional standard loan. So this little chart sort of gives you an idea, right? Who does what? So if it's delegated, and again, the investors delegated everything to Obsidian. Obsidian does everything. These are your qualified mortgages, your full doc, FHA, VA, no manual underwrite loans. Non-delegated means that the investor is going to underwrite the loan. So our team is not going to underwrite it. We'll still process it, but we are going to send it over to the investor to underwrite. These are going to be your DSCR and bank statement loans. All right. Everything else that doesn't fall under your orange and your green right here are going to be wholesale brokered loans. All right, these are your non-qualified mortgages, your jumbo, your limited document, ITINs, et cetera, and your subpar, subprime. So this is really a good slide to keep a hold of. It's a really good guideline for you guys to know where to send your loans to and what you're looking for. All right. It's also important to note that the only loans that you're going to be able to price within our pricing engine are going to be the delegated and non-delegated loans. And the reason why is because wholesale pricing is done at the lender level. So when you're going wholesale, you are actually taking that loan and you're going out to another lender. Okay, so that's going to be their pricing engine. Now we have access to Loan Sifter, which gives us some information on rates and stuff with some of our wholesalers. But a lot of these guys in their own software, they are going to have the pricing engine in there, and they're going to price the loan when you submit the loan to them, or you can contact their AE, and their AE is going to help you. All right, so the loan streamline process. Again, you're going to collect the 1003 and initial documents on first contact with the borrower. That's going to determine the loan type and what type of earnest money they're talking about putting down. All right, you're going to get the two forms of ID I mentioned, the government ID and some other form of ID, secondary ID. Income documents, which are going to be 2 years of W-2s, pay stubs or 1099s, or tax returns if they are self-employed. You may also want to ask them for a P&L if they have it. You're going to get 60 days worth of bank statements, purchase contract if it's a purchase, and the credit card authorization form. That's all we want you to do. Once you've got that, and you've pulled credit and ran your AUS, you submit that within that first 48 hours. That's what we would expect. I mean, obviously, we're not holding you that 48 hours, but we would like you to get it done in 48 hours. Underwriting will condition for everything else, but that gives the underwriter the opportunity to look at the loan within that first 48 hours, come back to you as the loan officer, let you know if it's going to work or not, and keep you from, having the borrower pay for an appraisal and all this other stuff, and then only to find out that the loan's not going to work. The reason that we say 48 hours is because we've come to find in the industry that if you're not getting everything done with the borrower within that first 48 hours, they've generally shopped that loan to a couple of other lenders, and whoever gets done that first 48 hours and responds back in the first 48 hours is going to be the one that's going to get that loan. All right. We also have three ways that you get paid. So when you're pricing and correspondent non-delegated, again, as I said, that's going to be more tech. All right. Wholesale, again, that's going to be priced out completely different. All right. So how do I get paid? It depends on two things. Number one, if it's a wholesale or a wholesale payout, wholesaler broker loans are paid to Obsidian the day the loan funds. So we either get a check, which may take 2 or 3 days by snail mail, or we get a wire, which comes in the same day. Once Obsidian receives the check, it's broken down for fees due Obsidian. That's your $12.95 or 20%, $4.95 processing, $2.95 QC fee, and then the remainder of that is paid out to the LO. So typically, payouts are every Friday. If everything is done by that Wednesday, you'll get paid that Friday. Now, the correspondent side takes a little bit longer because we have what is called post-closing in those. They may take a little bit longer, but they typically pay more than the wholesale. You're going to get more than the 2.75, but you're going to be waiting a little bit longer to get paid on those. The reason why is it has to go to the warehouse. We have to submit it for purchase review, which is the investor auditing that loan. Then, once the purchase review is conducted, they may come back and say, we have additional conditions that we want you to satisfy before we'll purchase the loan. All right. So they go ahead and they do that. They submit the loan for the final purchase review. Okay. Which is basically we give them back the conditions. They come back and say, okay, we're going to look at it one more time. If everything is good, they're going to clear it to purchase, and they are going to send us a purchase advice. And the next thing, we're going to get a wire. And at that point, the loan is bought and you're going to get paid on the loan. How long does that typically take? Anywhere from 3 to 15 days. All right. So if you're in that cash crunch, you may want to balance your budget out by doing a few wholesale and doing a few correspondent until you've got a little bit of money in the bank, a little cushion in the bank, and then obviously do the correspondent. But you're going to get paid out on wholesale faster, just never as much money in most cases. All right, processing and underwriting. So our processing and underwriting, the LOA the loan officer is responsible for communicating with the borrower, completion and collection of the signed 1003, ordering the title estimate, which we talked about, tri-merge credit report, in other words, pulling credit. You're going to choose the program and the lender when pricing. You're going to lock your loan. We recommend that if you have a clear to close, you can lock it for 30 days. If you're going to lock when you submit to processing, which is going to be what you're going to do in most cases, lock for 45 days and then 30 days if you have an underwriter's approval. All right. And that's taken into consideration that 3 to 15 days that's in the warehouse, the file must remain locked. All right. You're going to communicate and provide any additional documentation needed from the borrower to processing and underwriting. All right. And then approval of the final fee sheet for closing. All right. So those are the 4 responsibilities: point of sale, structure loan, submit to processing, and commit the loan. All right. Give me one quick second here. All right, so everybody's going to get a point of sale link. When you go to your point of sale, it is going to look just like this. This is the website that folks are going to get. Your borrowers are going to need to sign up. That's going to set them up with an account. And then once they've set up their account, they can sign in. All right. The sign up process is very easy. All they have to do is put in their first name, last name, email address, mobile phone, and work number and create a password. That's it. Once they do that, they're going to get an email to activate the account. The account's going to be activated. They log in with the email and password that they created. As soon as they do that, they're going to see this very simple interface. They're going to choose whether they want to purchase or refinance at that point. And that's going to take them into the 1003 loan application. All right. If you notice, this area where I've got the red square around follows exactly the same guidelines as the paper IRLA. So it's basically the 1003, and they're just going to go through each section and fill it out. Now, if you're doing this with them over the phone, you can obviously get a free Zoom account. That way you can share screens and you can walk them through this process. That's a really good way to be helpful. Or you could just go through via lending pad and just take the application and ask them the questions. Like I suggested, do the loan interview, and then that's going to give you all of the information. And by the time you complete that interview, you might spend an hour on the phone with them, but you will have a complete 1003. All right, so working in lending pad, once they have filled out the application, you're going to automatically get an email saying that the loan has been created in lending pad. When you go in the loading pad, you're going to see there's a lot of stuff going on in the lending pad. It looks very busy, but it's really not that hard to use. Almost every function for a loan can be completed in lending pad. So application and docs via the point of sale, every integration for credit, pricing, the AUS, even CRM functions are available in lending pad, and then obviously document operations like e-sign and consumer upload. All right, so the next step we're going to do is we are actually going to go through a interactive loan origination session with Lending Pad. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick break. It is 1:56, so let's come back at 5 after 2. We'll run through Lending Pad and some pricing, and then I'll take any questions that you guys have and then give you the rest of your day back. So I'm going to mute, and I'll see you guys at 1:05. All right, guys, I'm back. So let me go ahead and get Lending Pad up here, and we'll run through a quick scenario in here, a couple of scenarios. Let me get my screen share going. All right, so everybody's going to get credentials. Obviously, the Lending Pad, that's going to get you your point of sale as well. Once you're fully onboarded, you'll get those credentials. If you are fully onboarded and you haven't received them yet, please shoot me an email after this is over with, and I'll make sure that you get them. You need to have your Obsidian email already set up and everything before I can send them over to you. All right, so once you get those, you're going to reset your password, obviously. Then you're going to go ahead and log in. First thing I want to show you guys is when you log in, it's going to bring you right to your dashboard. Your dashboard is going to be pretty much empty until you start doing some loans. But over here on the left, it's going to give you your most current activity, any tasks that you've been assigned by the processor, the underwriter, or tasks that you've assigned yourself. And then these are across the top are what I call TRID markers. If you don't know what they are, just hover over the little eye and it'll tell you specifically what the module is. Anything that shows up in here, though, means that it's behind the eight ball and you need to get on top of it to get it going. Like this 3-day one is basically saying that you've completed the application, but you haven't sent out the loan estimate as of yet. Everything else here is going to be metrics about your loan. So basically, it's going to show you how many loans you have in your pipeline, what status they're in, what type of loans they are, if it's a purchase or cash out. And then if you hover over, it's going to tell you basically how much money is tied up in each one. All right. I also want to bring your attention to the support and training links up here. So support, you can create a ticket if you need to. We have live support contact. And then if you'll notice right here in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little chat bubble. You can actually start a chat with a technician. These are technical questions. These are not for loan-related questions. So don't, hit them up and say, hey, what's the minimum credit score on an FHA loan? They're not going to help you with that. They are just here specifically to help you with issues with Lending Pad itself. You can also create a ticket, or you can also come to the knowledge base, and the knowledge base will allow you to ask any specific questions that you have. Training, they have live training every week. You can sign up for that. Basically, go over features and things like that. And Lending Pad, teach you how to be better at Lending Pad, or they have videos that you can watch as well. All right. The first thing you're going to want to do, though, once you get in here, is you are going to want to go ahead and come and complete your profile. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up here. You'll see that your name is going to be up there, and it's going to have a little icon with your initials in there. And you're going to see that there's the option for your profile. And you're also going to see the switch user role, which you'll see that you have the option of loan assistant or loan officer. Just remember, if you are using the transition desk for your loans, you're not going to see those as a loan officer. You have to switch over to loan assistant to see those because you are the loan assistant. You're not the loan officer on those, so they're not going to show up in your pipeline. So to see those, you got to switch to loan assistant. First thing you're going to do when you come to your profile, go ahead and click on edit here. Make sure that your first name and last name are spelled correctly. All your contact information is correct here. You can upload a picture of yourself here for your profile. Next thing you're going to want to do is come to preferences and complete your email signature. Okay. Put in all this information. The reason why this is important is because this signature is what is going to show up on any forms that you send out of Lending Pad. So you want to make sure that this is filled out. Otherwise, when you send a pre-approval letter, it won't have your contact information at the bottom of it. The final thing that you're going to want to do in here also is you're going to want to come to the Actions tab, and you're going to want to add the MoreTech credentials we provided you along with the email address that was provided you. Don't put in your email address. Put in the email address of the lock desk email that we provided you. That way, when you send the lock request, it's going to go to that particular lock desk. All right. Once you've done that, this is a very important step because you won't be able to price without it. Once you've done that, go ahead and click on Save Changes, back to your profile. Next thing you can do here is you can change the theme. So you can change the entire look and feel of Lending Pad just by coming in here and just clicking on a few buttons. You can change button colors, header colors, fonts, everything you want to do at a very granular level. Save changes there, go back to settings. You can also create what are called views. A view is basically when you're in your pipeline, you're going to see that there's all these filters over here, these company filters that are on the left, on the right side of the screen. You may not want all of these filters. You may want to just filter on your own specific criteria. So what you can do is you can actually come in here, you can go to views, you can click on create a new view, give the view a name, and then you can come here to your filters and you can choose whatever filters you want to search on just by clicking on the green arrow next to those things. Click on add selected, save the changes, go back to your views, and then set that as your default view. All right. Once you've done that, that completes setting up your profile. At that point, you want to go ahead and start getting busy in your pipeline. Again, you're not going to see a lot on your dashboard initially as a new loan officer, so you want to stay focused on your pipeline. Now, your pipeline is not going to auto-populate loans. You actually have to click on the search button in order for it to generate the loans for you. The other thing that I want to show you up here is you have the ability to create a loan or a lead here. Okay. We want to make sure that you guys are very specific with this, that if you are just bringing in a lead, if you have somebody that's not doing the 1003, but you're putting their name and their phone number and email address in there as a place marker for a potential application you might get later on, use the lead option. Okay. If you're doing the loan, and you're going to choose loan and click on create new loan. And at this point is when you can do your interview and enter the loan in for the person. You don't have to send them your point of sale. You can just manually enter the loan. That way you get a full application 100% completed. All right. If it comes in via the point of sale, it's going to show up here. So when you click on search, it's going to auto populate all the loans. If you don't put any specific filtering criteria, you'll see all the loans that are in your queue. All right. For the purposes of this exercise, we're going to look at approved loans. So let's just find a few that are approved. And I'm going to show you both a purchase and a refinance, okay? All right, so let's see here. We have an approved purchase right here. Great, primary residence. So let's go ahead and go into this loan. So you go into your loans by clicking on the blue pencil mark. You're going to see that all through Lending Pad. You saw it with your profile. It is on everything that is editable in Lending Pad. Now, the first place when you go into Lending Pad is going to take you to the Overview tab. I want you guys to completely ignore that. That's not going to become important to you until after you've completed the loan application and collected docs. So the place where you're going to start initially is going to be your loan application, and you're going to start your documents pane. So in your documents pane, when your consumer uploads documents, you are going to see one folder that's going to have all of the documents in it. It's going to be called consumer uploaded. All documents that the consumer uploads are going to be in that folder. You are going to need to sort those documents into the appropriate buckets. All right. So an example of how to do that is, let's pretend that this unassigned underwriter bucket here is your consumer uploaded bucket. And we click on the down arrow, and we're going to see all the documents that are in there. Now, your borrower may have scanned everything into one massive PDF that has all of the documents in there. It might have bank statements, ID cards, et cetera, in which case you're going to have to parse that PDF out in order to separate all of those pages into different docs. Or they may have sent them separately like this, in which case you're just going to move them to the right folders. In any case that you need to do that, again, you're going to click on your blue pencil here. That is going to give you a preview of what the document is. All right, so here we have one document. Let's say this document is the ID card. So you're going to name the document correctly, which would be, our naming convention is first and last name, the document type, the agency for the document, and the date of the document if it's pertinent. So, for example, a bank statement would be John Doe, bank statement, Chase Bank, March 2022. If it's a W 2 form, it would be W 2 for John Doe, W 2, 2022, right? You always want to make sure that if the document is the co-borrower's document, that you label the first and last name of the co-borrower. That way, when the processor goes through the documents, it makes it easier for them to just look at the document title and find what they're looking for. All right, that's the naming convention. To put the document where it belongs, all you have to do is click on the type right here, find where the document goes. If it's ID cards, it goes in ID, income docs, assets, et cetera. Choose that particular folder and click on Save Changes. That's going to go ahead and create the right bucket to put it in. All right. Let's say, for example, we have a multi-page document where they've uploaded everything all at once. So let's just find one here. Let's use a bank statement. So we'll pretend this is all of their documents, right? Let's say page 1 is ID cards, page 2 is bank statements, page 3 is a tax return. All right. So all you have to do here is you're going to name it again, John Doe ID card, John Doe driver's license, Florida. Don't have to put the date in or whatever. You're going to come down here. You're going to pick ID, right? But if it's a multi-page document, what you're going to do is you're going to come to document operations because this is how you're going to separate this PDF. So if you need to move this one page to the ID folder, after you've named it, you're just going to choose the move option. You're going to choose page 1 because that's the one you want to move. You're going to name the document correctly. You're going to put it in the right folder. It's an ID. And then you're going to click on Move Page. And that's going to parse that one page out and leave the other pages. And then all you have to do is keep doing that with each page as you identify what the document is until everything is sorted in the correct folders, at which point it's going to look like this. Okay? You'll have folders for everything. All right. Once you've done that with your documents, you can go ahead and close the document pane for now. And now you're going to come to your loan application. All right. Everything in LendingPad goes from left to right. So you'll notice once we chose loan application, we had a subset of folders, tabs that follow along with the categories on the paper ERLA form, starting with the borrower's information, assets and liabilities, REO or real estate owned, loan and property declarations, and demographics. So we're going to start here with the borrower's tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to have these edit buttons next to each section. So we're going to go in there and we're going to make sure that everything that we have in here is complete. So we're going to look at the first and last name. We want to specifically look and see residency type, make sure they've got a residence in there. Residency duration is important. We're not going to have credit scores yet because we haven't ran credit at this point, but we're going to make sure we have all the contact info. And if they have a co-borrower, we want to make sure that that co-borrower is in the correct role. So in this case, you'll see that the borrower and the co-borrower are both listed as borrowers, right? The way that LendingPad does this is whoever's the first on the form is the borrower. Whoever's second on the form is the co-borrower. If I click on the swap borrower and co-borrower button, it's going to change the position of these two borrowers on the form. All right. You'll also notice that under the co-borrower applicant type, I have other options. I can have co-signer, non-title spouse, or title holder only. All right. Remember that what you choose there is going to affect how the system knows to pull credit. So you want to make sure that you're putting the right applicant type for the co-borrower in there. Once you've verified all this information, save the changes, move on to the next section, which is addresses. All right. Make sure that the addresses are correct. If you start typing in here, like I do 3011, it's going to automatically try to predictively populate it for you. Make sure that if the residency duration is under 2 years, that they have the prior residency information in here. We need 2 years of resident information. Make sure that if the mailing address is the same as the current address, that you're checking that as well, because the credit report is going to use that address to run credit. Save the changes. Next thing you're going to move on to is employment. All right. You're looking for employment. Number one, you want to know, are they self-employed? If they're self-employed, you're going to turn on the self-employed slider. You're also looking for 2 years of employment. Okay. This is his present job. He's been there since 09/01, 2022. All right. So he hasn't been there a year yet. His position is customer service. And then we have his previous employments as well, because again, we need to establish 2 years of work history. Once we've verified all that, we can save changes. Now, before we do that, I want you guys to notice that there are additional tabs here under there. One of those tabs is income. All right. You have the ability to add the income here as either base or bonus or whatever that income type is. And then when you save the changes, that is going to add that under the income section here. Remember that income and every incremental thing about money in lending pad is always monthly. It is never annual. So if you're looking at the incomes, and let's say, for example, you only know their weekly income, you don't know any of that other information. You can see that the income here is read only. I can't enter anything in. But once I click on income and I go back to manage employments, and now if I go back to the income tab, you can see the income is here. So let's say, for example, I only know the annual income and I want to break that down into what the monthly is. All I have to do is click on this little calculator. I can put in the hourly, I can put in any of these values, and when I click on this set button, it's going to auto calculate everything for me. So if I put in the 35,000 and click on set, it's going to break all of this down. If I put in the hourly at 17 bucks an hour and I click on set, it's going to automatically calculate it for me, so I don't have to do the math myself. All right. Once you've done that and you've gotten the income, you'll know that nearest living relatives, military service, income assets, counselings, et cetera, are all optional. You don't have to fill those out on the IRLA, so you don't have to fill those out here. So then you're going to move on to assets and liabilities. So from the assets perspective, you're going to put in their bank statement info. You're going to have 2 months worth of bank statements. You're going to put that info in here, right? You're going to find out if they have any gifts that they're getting, right? When you're asking them about, where's your down payment coming from? All right, you're going to source all of that information in here under assets. It's also important that when you do the assets that you put in an account number. If you don't know the account number, put in 4 zeros. There has to be something in this field or AUS will not validate these as valid accounts and it won't count this money. All right, and then you'll be wondering, why does it say I don't have enough cash to close? All right, so you want to make sure that you're always putting in the account IDs. Now, you're not going to have liabilities and you're not going to have inquiries because you have not ran credit yet. So at this point, to get the liabilities, we're going to go ahead and run credit. So to run credit, we're going to go to the Actions tab, because everything actionable in Lending Pad is done under the Actions tab. Now, you see there's a lot of actions under here, but there's only a few actions that you as a loan officer are ever going to be involved in. Those are going to be the credit report. All right. Going to be AUS, the pre-approval letter, print forms, and submitting the loan to processing. Those are the only 5 items that you're ever going to do as a loan officer in Lending Pad under the Actions tab. All right, so we're going to go through those here in a minute, but let's start with running the credit. So to run credit, again, you're going to have the credit card authorization. That's going to have the person's credit card info, their signature on there and all that. You'll have that in your documents. You're going to open that up, and then you're going to go ahead and click on send on the credit report. It's going to auto-populate everything you see here on the left, right? We're ordering a new credit report. You'll notice that it does not populate the credit card information. You have to enter that in from the credit card auth. Okay. So what you're going to do here in order to turn this on is there is a little invisible slider up here that you're going to turn on. That's going to allow you to go ahead and put in the credit card information. All right, once you've entered that, leave the slider on, click on the send request. That is going to go ahead and run the credit. You'll get a success message here. The credit score, the median credit score will populate over here. You will see a copy of the credit report under requests in its PDF form. And under documents, you'll see that it has created the credit report and liabilities bucket automatically. All right, so once that is done and you come back to your loan application, now when you go under assets and liabilities, your liabilities will be there. All right, at that point, you can go under and edit your liabilities and you can either omit or mark for payoff. Okay.
I'm sorry, Andre, can I ask a question? It's Eddie.
Yes.
Where do you go for the milestone to make sure it's in the right milestone to run the credit? Because I had that situation where I couldn't run the credit because it wasn't in the proper milestone.
Right. So for milestones, the system automatically applies milestones if everything is done correctly. But if you don't have it, like say, for example, up here, if this status is showing lead, it's not going to let you run credit because it's a lead. It needs to convert to a prospect. So in order for it to convert to a prospect, you either have to have the application completed, fully completed. You have to come into the actions and either issue a pre-approval letter, or the easiest way to do it is to come into the dates and edit your critical dates and convert that person to a prospect right here. All right. They become a prospect when you take the application. All right. So you can just come under critical dates, choose the date and time, do that. When you save it, that's going to force the milestone. All right, so assets and liabilities. So once you've got the liabilities, obviously check the inquiries, make sure that they don't have anything within the last 90 days that does not pertain to the mortgage transaction. So in other words, if they've just bought a brand new car in the last 90 days, you might want to find out from them, why did you buy a brand new car when you're trying to buy a house? Okay. Um, The next thing is going to be the REO. So real estate owned in general, in most cases, doesn't become important on a primary residence unless the person is selling a home and then buying another home, or if it's an investment property or a second home. At that point, you're going to have REO. You'll also have REO if it's a cash out refinance or refinance. All right. So the important thing about REO is that REO has to be linked to a liability. So if I come into my assets and liabilities and I'm looking at my liabilities and I see an open mortgage here, then I'm going to assume that this person owns real estate. All right. So they're going to have a REO. So now what I have to do is I have to link that real estate to that specific liability. The system doesn't know that. All right. So when I click on edit here and I have the ability to add a new REO, basically it's going to give me all of this information up here regarding the residents. All right. And I'm going to be able to go ahead and add that basic information in here. And then I'm going to need to link that to a specific liability. So let's go back to the pipeline and let's find a refinance and I'll show you how that works. So as you can see here, when I come to my loan application and I go to my REO, this person owns multiple properties and has multiple mortgages. So when I click on my edit button here, obviously these have all been added in. And when I go to my liabilities tab, I see that I have the ability to pick liabilities from the list of liabilities from the credit report. So all I have to do is come in, add the liability, go into the credit report, see which mortgage company matches that address of that liability, and choose that from the creditor name in order to mark that. At which point I can either decide to mark that for payoff, I can do whatever I need to do there. Okay. I can omit it, I can mark it for payoff, I can do any of those things. All right. So once it's in there, once the REO is in there, when you come back to your liabilities, you'll see that it is now linked to the specific liability that REO belongs to. And now the REO shows up under that liability. So if I was going to go ahead and pay this off, I could click on the edit liabilities here and just turn on the payoff marker. And then that would let the processor know and the title company and everybody know that that liability is being paid off. But here I am, I'm linked to my REO now. All right, let's go back to the purchase. All right, from there, I want to go to my loan and property. So obviously here we have a property that's already there. At this point, if I was to go back into my overview, I'd see that a lot of this information is now beginning to take shape. So I'm starting to see some of this stuff, but now I've got to figure out the proposed housing expense, right? So I've got to know essentially what the house is going to be worth, year built, all of that info. So if I click on edit here, and I can do this from the loan application as well, from the loan and property, if I click on edit here, you'll see that it's giving me all the information about the purchase property and stuff. But if I needed to actually take a look at the property, I can click on this AVM check button here. And what that's going to do is it's going to take me out to Zillow. And I can go to the facts and features on the house. And I can get all of the details like year built, et cetera, right? Home type, new construction, HOA, if it's an HOA or not, I get all of that information here. And then I can also come here to my monthly cost, and my monthly cost is going to tell me what the principal and interest is based on their estimate, which I'm not going to use because Lending Pad is going to figure that out for me. But it is going to tell me the property tax, the homeowner's insurance, and if there were HOA fees, what those HOA fees are. So I can grab all of this information from Zillow. I can come into my subject property here and I can populate all of that year built information and then also my proposed housing expense because obviously the borrower is going to want to know. And when you run your AUS, you want your AUS to be accurate based on all of that information, right? So that your DTI is accurate because the last thing you want to do is run it without the hazard insurance, property tax, mortgage insurance, etc. Only to find out when you add that in, now the DTI is higher than what the loan limit allows, and you're not able to, at that point in time, get a loan, right? So I'm going to populate all of that information in there so I have it. Next, I'm going to come to my declarations. I should only have one yes here. The only time I should have two yeses is if, again, I have ownership interest in another property. Everything else here should be a no. If you see yeses here, look at that very carefully because these are negative connotations. So that means that there's something in here that should not be a yes. Like, are you borrowing any money for this real estate transaction? Most people think, oh, I'm putting a yes because I'm borrowing from Obsidian, but that's a no. That's basically, are you borrowing money for the earnest money? Are you borrowing money for your closing costs, et cetera, et cetera? Will this property be subject to a lien? Questions like that. All of those you want to be no's. Okay. Demographics, the last thing you need to do on the application. As everybody knows from their training, you have to fill this information out whether you want to or not. You look at their ID card, get a guess, look at their last names. Even if they don't want to disclose, you still have to take a guess. All right. Don't put in the application sign date, because if you do that and the application has not been signed, you are going to trigger TRID. All right. The application is not signed until the intent to proceed is done. So, in other words, until you submit this file to processing, and processing sends out the loan estimate, it is not going to be a application. Okay. Irregardless of whether or not you've collected everything for TRID, we have to get the LE out, and the borrower has to look at the LE and say, yes, I'm going to move forward. All right. So once you've done all of this, you have completed the application. All right. So now you've got a really good view of, and you've gotten your documents. So you finished those steps. You've gotten a really good understanding of what the borrower looks like, what their credit history and liabilities and everything looks like. And now it's time to go to the overview tab and start putting together your loan. All right. So now you can come here and you want to go ahead and go to the terms and mortgage, and you've interviewed your borrower, so you know how much they want to put down. You know what their credit score is. Okay, they're at a 747. Um, they're putting down 3.5%. Okay. And so now it's like you can sit there and say, okay, this borrower has a score between 580 and 640, but they're not above a 640. So it's going to be an FHA loan. Or, yes, this borrower has a score above a 640. So I can go conventional on this, right? And so you're going to pick your loan type from here. And you'll notice we have conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, HELOC, HELOAN, other. And then once you pick your loan type, you're going to pick your program. So you're going to have your program list here. In this case, we've got an FHA 30-year fixed. You see all the other options, but it's going to tell you which ones are available and which are not. So once you've done that, okay, and you've gotten your proposed housing expense, at this point, you can go ahead and get your pricing done for your loan so that you can run your AUS and get your pre-approval out, because you've got to get a rate in order to run AUS. So now you can go ahead and click on your Get Price button. Oh, this one is already locked, so let me find one that is not. Give me a second. Let's go back here. Let's take off the approved status. Let's search. Let's find what's got all the information in here. All right, so we got this was still TBD. Let's see here. This one has no credit score. Let's try it with this TBD and see if it'll let me do it or not. All right, so let's go here. So let's try to get price here. All right, so once I do that, you see it'll take me into more tech, and at this point, I'm able to go ahead. It's going to grab all of the information from the loan and auto-populate it for me. So there's only a few things I need to do. I need to, number one, change my product category because I'm not doing a 10-year. This is going to be a VA 30-year fixed. All right, so let's go ahead and change that here. All right. And I'm not going to do single best. I have the option here of choosing what investors. So I'm going to do all investors here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Get Rates. And boom, my rates are going to populate up here. All right. So remember again, see here it says these are investors. So and based on my scenario that I put in this loan application, I now know every single investor that'll purchase this loan for me. So what I'm doing here is I'm picking the guy that's going to buy the loan after it funds, right? Because remember, Obsidian's going to do it. So now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at my pricing here. All right. I'm looking at my rate, obviously, but I'm also looking at my pricing. So I know that par pricing for a rate to be at par, it has to be at 100. So think of 100 as 100% covered. Okay, that way you always remember if I'm below 100%, I'm not 100% covered. All right, which means that I am, hang on a quick sec. I'm not 100% covered. Okay, so I got to find something that's over 100% in order to be able to do that. All right. So when I'm looking at my 100s here, at a 5% note rate, I'm at 100.098, right? So I'm over 100. So that means that all of Obsidian's fees, everything is covered. So anything above this 100, I am going to make on the back end as a loan officer. This back end amount is not going to be disclosed to the borrower, which means I could still charge on the front. I can still charge points and fees on the front and still make more money. Okay. And as I'm looking here, I see that I've got a couple like at 5.1%. I'm at a half a point. I'm at 0.539. So I'd make a half a point on the back of this deal even before I've started to charge anything on the front. All right. So let's say I go to my borrower and my borrower says, yeah, I'm happy with 5.1. Let's go ahead and do it. At this point, I'm going to want to go ahead and lock this rate. So I'm going to click on it to choose it. That's going to choose it. And then all I need to do is click on register lock. Okay. That's going to send the lock request to the lock desk to lock the loan. All right. It's also going to add this rate to the loan. Now, what you might want to do is prior to locking this, you might just want to come in here, go into the terms and mortgage, go ahead and put your note in here at 5.1 and run your AUS to make sure that everything is good to go with your AUS before you lock the loan. Because again, if you lock it, and you don't have a favorable AUS on there, the lock desk is going to deny your lock, and you're going to have to go back and price it again. And maybe the market's closed by then, you lose that great pricing. So you want to test it, make sure that it locks, and I mean that it prices right. You get approved eligible before you move ahead with that. All right. So once you put that information in there, at this point, you can decide if you're going to charge points and fees on the front. All right. So any loan over 114,000, I think it's $800, uh, you can charge up to 3% on the front. Okay. Remember again, this amount on the back end is not going to be disclosed. So you've already made a half a point here, and you can go ahead and make a little bit more on the front. So what you're going to want to do at this point in time is you're going to want to come to your disclosures tab, and you'll see your Section A fees, which are your loan origination fees. That's how much you're going to charge the borrower, and then your total discount points. So what are discount points? Let's say, for example, the borrower says, I don't like this rate. I want to be at 4.99%. Well, at 4.99%, this is underwater, right? Because it's below 100. I'm not at 100%. I'm about 1.5 below 100, right? So what happens in that situation is the borrower has to do what's calling buying down the rate. Buying down the rate is purchasing discount points to bring this up to 100, right? So when I come in here and I go to edit this, I can do one of two things, right? I can come in here and I can say, okay, well, the percentage is 1.5. So I could say percentage of the total loan amount, and I can put in 1.5 here, and it's going to calculate how much money that is. All right. Conversely, I could say, you know what? I don't want the borrower to see that I'm making a lot on origination fees. So I'm just going to charge more on the discount points. So if the discount points are 1.5, I'm going to move my discount points up to 2, right? So I make another half a point on the discount. And then at that point, I can come in here under my loan origination fees. And let's say I charged another point here. So now I've made 2 points on this deal. The borrower's only seeing me making 1 point. They know that they're paying discount points because they're getting a lower rate than they would have gotten. And I can save the changes. And now that's going to add that to the points and fees here. Well, there's going to be a processing fee here of $8.95. Now you got to remember that that 3% I'm talking about is inclusive of everything. It's all fees. It's not just what you're charging. So you can't ever really truly make 3% on the front, right? Because it's going to be 3% minus the discount points, processing, and underwriting fees. So how do you know what you can charge? Once you put the numbers in there, what you can do, or before you put the numbers in there, you come here, you click, put in your processing fee of $8.95, and you got your $14.95 origination fee. Let's say you don't fill these in, and you can click on the compliance testing details button here, and you come down to the bottom to the last page, and the last page is the points and fees test. All right. So with the fees that I have in there, the underwriting fees, right, and the processing fee of $8.95, I'm at 2,468 bucks. I've got the other fees in here at 18,000. But if I look here, I'm below the threshold amount by $11,707. So if I want to make 5 grand on this deal, if I want to make 7 grand or 8 grand or whatever, I can charge that and still be below my 3% threshold. And I'm good. I can charge any amount below that. I can charge 11,706.45, and I still am going to be below that threshold. Now the bar is going to hate me because they're going to look at that and they're going to be like, "Why is this guy charging me 11 grand for this deal?" But you have the ability to do that, so that way you know ahead of time that what you can charge on the front and what you can make, and you know what you're going to make on the back. All right, so you can look like you're not charging a lot. Bar sees that and they're all good. So you go ahead and you populate that information in here. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come back to your actions. You're going to want to run your AUS. If it's a conventional loan, okay, you're going to run both DO and LP. All right, so you'll choose DO, you'll run that first. Then you're going to come back to the contact and you're going to do Freddie Mac. And then you're just going to go ahead and run that. All right. That's going to give the underwriter the ability to look at which one gives more of a favorable underwrite. And that's what she's going to use for the underwrite. All right. If you are doing a FHA loan, you only have to run DO. All right, which is DU. All right. The first time it runs, it's going to do an underwriting with merge credit. After that, it's going to do underwriting only. So what it's going to do is it's going to take all the application information, banking information, et cetera, all of that. It's going to run all of that with the credit, and it's going to give you a finding. Okay. You don't want to run AUS a whole bunch of times. Okay. If you're doing that, you are not doing your job as a loan officer. You should never have to run AUS more than twice. And the reason why I say that is because once you run it the first time, if you get approved eligible, you're good. If you don't get an approved eligible, all right, you're going to get a report. Okay. So let's go here and let's go back to the approved. Okay. And we're going to come back here because we've already ran AUS. And look, here we have an approved ineligible. So this loan can't even be submitted, right? We've gotten approved, but we've gotten ineligible for a reason. So what we need to do when we're in this situation is we always, always, always need to read the AUS report. We need to understand whether we got approved eligible or not. We have to know how to read this report because this report is going to tell you. It's like that little um, tablet that they put at the end of the doctor's bed. When you're laying in the bed, the doctor picks up that little pad and reads it, and it says, this is what's going on with this particular patient. This tells you what's going on with your loan. So here we have an approved ineligible, and if I look here, it's telling me right here that this case is ineligible due to inadequate funds to close. All right. So if I come back here to this loan, and I go to my loan application and I look at my assets, right? I've got 23,000. Well, no, altogether I've got $40,632 in assets. Now, if I come here and I look, where's my cash to close? I only need 21,360 to close. All right. So this has been corrected, but they haven't ran their AUS again. But that's why it's really important to read the report, because under the risk eligibility guideline, it's always going to tell you whether you passed or not. It's always going to tell you what the issue is in that first paragraph there. The other thing is you want to read this even though you haven't approved eligible, because it's going to tell you other things that need to be done prior to the file being completed in underwriting. And it's what the underwriter is going to look at as well. And the information that you're going to see here is only as good as what you get in the application, which is why it's important to make sure that your application is accurate by cross-checking the credit against the documents against the application itself to make sure that everything lines up. All right. Once you've gotten your approved eligible and everything is ready to go, at that point, you can go ahead and send out your pre-approval letter. So you can look at the pre-approval letter by clicking on preview here. That's going to show you a copy of the pre-approval letter. As you can see, it's got all the information in there. This is your vanilla pre-approval. It's got your signature block that you put in at the bottom. Everything looks good right here. You can just go ahead and click on send here. It's going to automatically attach to pre-approval, and it's going to let you send it as an email to your borrowers. All right. At that point in time, you're going to need to come into the print forms. All right. And from the print forms, that's where you're going to fill out that processor cover sheet and the loan submission checklist, which you have to fill out with every loan. All right. So when you come into settings here and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see those two forms. You have the cover letter processing. When you click on that, it's going to give you some fillable fields that you'll see here at the top. And basically, that's going to tell the processor what you did specifically with this loan, what you collected, and what you looked at. So they know everything that you did to calculate this income correctly. So you're going to fill that in, and then you're just going to click on Save Changes. That'll save that form. Then you're going to come back down, and you're going to do the same thing with the loan submission form. Now, the loan submission form has to be filled out with every single loan. The cover letter processing does not, only with self-employed borrowers. So when you choose the loan submission form, you'll see that there's a bunch of those. You're going to put in your regional manager's name there, and then you're going to see a bunch of sliders to slide, and you're just going to turn on the sliders for everything that you've done. Are there discount points? Are you giving a lender credit? Are there origination fee? This is borrower paid or lender paid. Turn on all of those different things, save that, and then what you want to do at that point is come here to the notes field and tell the processor, loan submission and processor cover are in forms. Okay, that's all you got to do at that point. All right, that'll let them know that everything has been done. Save those notes, and at that point, you can go ahead and submit the file for processing. Now, prior to submitting the file to processing, you have to assign the file to what's called our opener. All right, the opener in every situation under Obsidian is always going to be Sydney Phillips. All right. Sydney Phillips is the one that is going to send out your loan estimate. She's going to order the title work, and she's going to order the appraisal. Once she's done that, she is going to then assign a permanent processor. So remember that name, because when you come under assignments here, you're going to come to assignments first. You're going to you're going to choose Sydney from here. All right. And you're going to assign her. All right. Once she is assigned, at that point, you can go ahead and click the submit to processing button. And that's going to submit the file to processing. And at that point, you are done. At that point, Sydney's going to get the file. She's going to order the title work. She's going to go ahead and get the appraisal ordered. She's going to send out the LE. The borrower's going to sign the LE, and the file's going to start moving, and the processor and the underwriter are going to start contacting you for any additional conditions they have at that point. All right. So that is everything there is to do. Now, just one quick thing. Let's say, for example, you have a lead and you don't have a loan in the system, but you need to price. You can come straight to Mortec. All right. And when we send you your login information initially, and everybody gets a Mortec login. So if you've been fully onboarded, you should have a login and a password and the company ID. All you do is you come to the Marksman website, put in that company ID, your username and your password, and then you log in. And when you log in, you'll see the get pricing option, and you can run the exact same scenarios that you would run in here. You obviously have to put more information in to run the scenario, but you can run the scenario from here without having it in Lending Pad. All right. All right. So let's go back here. All right, folks. So that is everything that you need to understand. Again, remember that the most important things are to get those 5 documents, get that application, get your credit pulled, get your AUS ran, and submit that file. Get that file over the processors and the underwriters. Let them determine whether that's going to be a good file or not. It's not up to you to do that. We don't want you guys having to get into the minutia of trying to figure that out. We just want to get it over to the underwriter as quickly as possible so that you're not wasting the borrower's time and they're not wasting your time. So at this point, if does anybody have any questions that you want to ask, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to any questions. And